The stars looked the same as they always did through the viewport of the civilian transport ship. Min-Ho-yoon pressed his hand against the cold glass and smiled. He was going home after 3 months of studying alien agriculture on the outer colonies. His Aunt Myung would be waiting for him on Earth, probably with too much food and too many questions about his studies. The ship's intercom crackled to life. The captain's voice sounded tense. "All passengers, please remain calm. We are being approached by unknown vessels." Min-Ho's stomach tightened. He moved away from the viewport and sat down, strapping himself into his seat. Around him, other passengers whispered nervously. Children started to cry. Through the window, he could see them now. 3 massive warships, their hulls covered in thick armor plates and weapon ports. They were Thornax vessels. Everyone knew the Thornax. They were the warrior race of the Galactic Council, reptilian creatures who valued strength above all else. The captain's voice came again, shakier this time. "This is civilian transport vessel Clearwater. We are unarmed. We surrender. Please respond." Silence. The Thornax ships moved closer, surrounding the small transport like predators circling wounded prey. Min-Ho felt his heart pounding. This was supposed to be safe space. The Galactic Council had treaties, rules. Humans had been part of the Council for over 100 years. There was peace on the Nexus station, thousands of light years away. Ambassador Myung-han sat in the Council chambers. The room was enormous, built to accommodate 43 different species. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others floated in specialized environments or existed as pure energy. Myung had been Earth's representative for 15 years. She knew every species, every custom, every delicate balance of power. Today's session was about the disputed system. The Vrelians, insectoid beings with chittering mandibles and compound eyes, claimed it as their ancestral territory. Humanity had discovered it first by council law, but the Vrelians argued that their ancestors had ceded the planets millions of years ago. It was a lie and everyone knew it, but the Vrelians were old and powerful, and they had allies. Myung stood at the human podium, her voice calm and measured. "The Vrelian claim lacks evidence. Our surveys show no trace of their biological markers. We propose joint development, sharing resources equally." The Vrelian High Queen clicked her mandibles together in what might have been laughter. "Humans are generous with what they stole." "How noble." The Kareth representative, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell, pulsed with light. "The human position is noted. This council will deliberate." Myung sat down. Beside her, Dr. Taiyang Choi leaned close. The xenobiologist had been studying council species for a decade. "They're not going to rule in our favor," he whispered. "The Vrelians have too much influence." "I know," Myung said quietly. She glanced at her datapad. "A message from Min-Ho sent hours ago. Almost home, Aunt. Can't wait to see you. Bringing samples of Kepler 442b wheat. You'll love it." She smiled slightly. The boy was 23 but still called her aunt, even though she was technically his great-aunt. His enthusiasm reminded her why she did this job. Why humans work so hard to maintain peace. They wanted their children to explore the stars without fear on the Clearwater. Min-Ho watched the Thornax ships through the viewport. Still, no response to their surrender. The captain had broadcast it 5 times now. Protocol said they should acknowledge, board the ship if necessary, or let them pass. Something was wrong. A young woman sat across from him, holding a baby. Her hands shook. "They're going to let us go, right? We didn't do anything wrong." Min-Ho tried to smile. "Of course. This is just procedure. The Thornax are just being careful." But he didn't believe it. He pulled out his personal communicator and started recording a message. His hands were steady, but his voice wasn't. "Aunt Myung, if you're getting this, something's wrong. The Thornax stopped us. They're not responding to our surrender. Tell Mom and Dad I love them. Tell them The world turned white. The explosion tore through the Clearwater's hull in an instant. Min-Ho didn't feel pain. He didn't feel anything. The message he was recording transmitted automatically when his communicator detected his vital signs stopping. It bounced through hyperspace relays. A ghost signal carrying a dead man's last words, Captain. Junho Park was 20 minutes away when the distress signal reached his ship. The Harmony's Promise was a diplomatic vessel, lightly armed, designed for transport and negotiation, not combat. When his communications officer played the Clearwater's final transmission, Junho's blood went cold. "Get me visual," he ordered. His crew worked frantically. When the image appeared on the main screen, Junho closed his eyes. Debris, bodies floating in the void. The Clearwater was gone. Completely destroyed. "Sir," his security officer, Lieutenant Haijin Kong, spoke quietly. "There were 847 people on that ship. Civilian manifest shows families, students, researchers." "I can read," Junho said sharply, then caught himself. "I'm sorry." "Send everything to Earth Command?" "Send it to Ambassador Han. Send it everywhere." Haijin worked her console. "Sir, we're picking up the Thornax ships." "They're leaving the area. Should we pursue?" Junho no wanted to say yes. Every instinct screamed to chase them down. But the Harmony's Promise couldn't fight 3 Thornax warships. "No, document everything. I want every piece of debris cataloged. Every trajectory analyzed. We're going to prove exactly what happened here." On the Nexus station, Miao's datapad chimed during the council session. She glanced at it, expecting another routine update. Instead, she saw the emergency code. Priority Alpha. She opened the message and felt the floor drop away beneath her. The Vrelian High Queen was speaking, her voice droning on about territorial rights. Miang didn't hear any of it. She was reading casualty figures. 847 confirmed dead. No survivors. Among the dead, her nephew Minho. The message he'd recorded had been recovered. She played it with her earpiece, listening to his voice cut off mid-sentence. Dr. Taiyang noticed her face had gone pale. "Miang? What's wrong?" She didn't answer immediately. She finished reading every word of the report. The Thornax had fired without warning. The Clearwater had been broadcasting surrender. There had been no provocation, no threat, no reason. Just murder. Miang stood slowly. The council session paused. All eyes turned to her. "Ambassador Han," the Kareth representative pulsed. "You are out of order." The Vrelian High Queen has not finished speaking. Miang's voice was steady, cold. "I request an emergency session. A human civilian vessel has been destroyed by Thornax military forces. 847 dead, including children." The chamber erupted in noise. Clicking, buzzing, humming in a dozen alien languages. The Thornax representative, a massive reptilian creature named War Leader Krathix, rose from his position. "A misunderstanding," he growled. "My forces acted in self-defense." "The vessel was unarmed," Miang said. "Broadcasting surrender." "You murdered civilians." Krathix's eyes narrowed. "Your species is weak. Weak species do not survive. Perhaps this will teach humans to stay away from Thornax territory." The chamber went silent. Even the other council members seemed shocked by the bluntness. But no one spoke up. No one condemned it. Miang looked around the room, seeing calculation in every alien eye. They were measuring, weighing, wondering if humanity would fight or accept this. The council chairman, an ancient being whose species no one could pronounce, spoke in translated common language. "This council will investigate the incident. Ambassador Han, you will present evidence in 3 days. This session is adjourned." Miang walked out of the chamber. Tiang followed her, trying to keep up. "Miang, wait. I'm so sorry about Munho. If you need time." She stopped and turned to face him. Her eyes were dry. Her hands were steady now. "Send a message to Earth Command, encrypted, priority Apex." Tiang's face went white. "Are you sure?" They killed my nephew. They killed 846 others. And the council is going to do nothing." She pulled out her datapad and typed rapidly. "They've made their choice. Now we make ours." The message she sent was short. Just 3 words. But those 3 words would change the galaxy forever. Protocol Apex activate. The message reached Earth in less than an hour. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Fleet Admiral Deho Nam received the encrypted transmission. He was 70 years old, gray-haired, and hadn't seen combat in 3 decades. When he read Meow's message, his hands didn't shake. He'd been waiting for this day, hoping it would never come. "Get me the War Council," he said to his aide. "All of them." Within the hour, the aide, a young officer named Lieutenant Borum, hesitated. "Sir, the War Council hasn't convened since. I know when it last met," Deho said quietly. "That's why we're meeting now." Within 60 minutes, holographic images appeared around the conference table. Generals, admirals, intelligence directors, people who had spent decades preparing for something they prayed would never happen. General Sualaim appeared last, her image flickering slightly from whatever classified location she was transmitting from. She commanded the Ghost Legion, and nobody knew exactly where they were stationed. That was the point. Deho didn't waste time. The Thornax destroyed a civilian transport. 847 dead. The Council is calling it a misunderstanding. Ambassador Han has requested Protocol Apex. The silence was heavy. Then General Sua spoke. "Are we certain? Once we activate, there's no going back." "I've reviewed the evidence," Daho said. He played the recordings. Minho's last message. The Clearwater's desperate surrender calls. The Thornax weapons fire. They murdered civilians who were begging for mercy. And the Council is going to let them walk away. Another general, a woman named Yinji Park, who commanded the orbital defenses, leaned forward. "The Council thinks we have what? 200 ships? Maybe 300? 214, according to their intelligence," Deho said. "They think we're merchants playing at military. They don't know about the Orc cloud shipyards. They don't know about the deep space stations. They don't know we've been building for 100 years. Dr. Jiwan Beek, the civilian representative and lead scientist of the enhancement programs, spoke up. "My people are ready. We've been ready." "But Admiral, are we sure we want to show them what we really are?" Deho stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth looked peaceful. Blue and green and beautiful. We joined the Council because we wanted peace. We hid our strength because we hoped we'd never need it. We've spent 127 years proving we could be trusted. And today they spat on that trust. They killed our children and laughed about it. He turned back to face them. "I'm activating Protocol Apex. All hidden assets go active. The Ghost Legion deploys. And we show the galaxy what happens when you spill human blood." One by one, they voted. It was unanimous. Across human space, everything changed. On the trade station Prosperity, a civilian freighter docked for routine maintenance. Within 3 hours, weapon systems hidden in cargo bays deployed. The freighter emerged as a warship, bristling with railguns and missile pods. The station's alien residents watched in confusion as dozens of civilian ships transformed the same way in the Oort cloud at the edge of the solar system. Massive structures that had been classified as ice mining operations powered up. They weren't mines. They were shipyards. Thousands of ships sat in those bays, built over decades in absolute secrecy. Now they launched. Sleek destroyers, heavy cruisers, and the dreadnoughts, massive vessels 5 kilometers long, carrying enough firepower to level a planet. Captain Seojuno stood on the bridge of the first dreadnought to launch. The Reckoning had been his home for 5 years, but this was the first time he'd ever fired her engines outside of a dock. His crew was at their stations, faces grim but determined. "All systems green," his tactical officer reported. Weapons primed. "Engines at full power?" Seojin looked at the main screen, showing Earth in the distance. Somewhere down there, families were mourning. 847 funerals to plan. He thought of Minho Yoon, a kid who just wanted to study alien plants. Never hurt anyone. Died begging for mercy. "Set course for Thornax Prime," Seojun ordered. "Maximum speed." And someone get me a list of every Thornax military installation in the galaxy. We're going to visit them all. On the Nexus station, Ambassador Myong attended the emergency council session 3 days after the massacre. The evidence was presented. Video recordings, testimony from nearby ships, wreckage analysis. Everything proved the Thornax had fired on an unarmed, surrendering civilian vessel. War leader Krathix stood before the council and didn't even pretend to be sorry. The vessel entered restricted space. We responded appropriately. They were in neutral territory, Myong said coldly. 20 light years from any Thornax claim. The Verlian High Queen clicked her mandibles. Ambassador Han, we understand your grief, but accidents happen in space. The Thornax have agreed to pay a small compensation. Surely that is sufficient? Compensation? Myong's voice was quiet, but it cut through the chamber like a blade. You think money replaces 847 lives? The Kareth representative pulsed. What else would you have? War? Your species has a few hundred ships. The Thornax have thousands. The Council has tens of thousands. Do not let your emotions lead humanity to destruction. Myong looked around the chamber. Every species was watching her with the same expression. Pity mixed with contempt. They thought humans were weak. They thought humanity would cry and complain and eventually accept whatever scraps the Council offered. She smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. You're right, she said. We wouldn't want war. After all, we're just peaceful merchants, aren't we? We've spent over a century proving how harmless we are, how devoted to peace, how willing to accept the Council's wisdom. She started walking toward the exit. As she passed the Thornax delegation, she stopped and looked directly at Krathix. You killed 847 souls. You laughed about it. The Council called it an accident. So now you'll learn something important about humans. And what is that? Krathix growled. We're very, very good at pretending, Myong said. We gave you 127 years of friendship. You gave us 1 day of violence. I wonder which one you'll remember longer. She left the chamber. Behind her, aliens whispered and clicked and buzzed. The Verlian High Queen spoke to her advisors. Send observers to human space. I want to know what they're planning. But it was already too late. By the time those observers arrived, they found empty dockyards and missing ships. They found research stations that had transformed into fortresses. They found that the humans they'd thought they understood were nowhere to be found. In their place was something else, something that had been hiding in plain sight for over a century. Captain Junho Park received new orders on the 5th day after the massacre. His ship, the Harmony's Promise, was recalled to Earth. When he docked at the orbital station, he barely recognized it. The station had tripled in size. Weapon platforms surrounded it like a metal reef. Ships he'd never seen before filled every dock. Lieutenant Haijin met him in the corridor. Captain, you need to see this. She led him to an observation deck. Junho looked out and felt his breath catch. Ships, thousands of them. The fleet was assembling, and it was massive. Destroyers moved in perfect formation. Cruisers that could crack a moon. And in the center, the dreadnoughts. 5 of them, each one larger than any ship he'd ever imagined. Where did these come from? Junho asked. We've been building them since before we joined the Council, Haijin said. Every trade ship that went out, every research station we built, every colony we established, it was all part of the plan, in case we ever needed to defend ourselves. Or attack, Junho said quietly. Haijin nodded. The Harmony's Promise is being refit? New weapons, new engines, new armor. When she launches, she'd be the Vengeance Protocol. Junho looked at her. That's a warship's name. We're not diplomats anymore, sir. We're soldiers. And we have work to do. On a hidden moon base, General Sua Lam addressed her Ghost Legion. 5,000 soldiers, the best humanity had ever produced. They'd been training in secret for decades, learning every species' weaknesses, every tactic, every technique. They'd infiltrated Council space years ago, living as merchants, researchers, tourists, waiting for orders that they hoped would never come. The orders are here, Sua said. She stood before them in full combat armor, black as space itself. The council thinks we're weak. They think we'll accept the murder of our people. We're going to teach them otherwise. She brought up a holographic map. It showed 40 council worlds, each marked with a red dot. These are primary military installations. When we hit them all at once. No warnings. No mercy for military targets. But remember your training. Civilians are off limits. We're not like them. We don't murder innocents. A soldier raised his hand. General, what about the species who didn't participate in the massacre? The council voted unanimously to dismiss the charges, Sua said coldly. They're all complicit. Every one of them chose power over justice. Now they'll learn what that choice costs. The soldiers stood at attention. They were ready. They'd been ready for years. Move out, Sua ordered. Operation Nightfall begins in 48 hours. The galaxy is about to learn what it means to awaken humanity. In the council chambers, the Scythian scholar Quellen tried one last time to warn them. He was old even by his species standards, and he'd spent his life studying warfare patterns. Something is wrong, he told the council. Human activity has increased dramatically. Ships are moving. Communications are encrypted. This doesn't look like a species preparing to negotiate. The Livrelian High Queen dismissed him with a wave of her appendage. The humans are posturing. Let them move their few hundred ships around. It makes them feel powerful. But what if we're wrong about their ship count? Quellen insisted. What if we've only seen what they wanted us to see? The Kareth representative pulsed with amusement. Quellen, you grow paranoid in your old age. We have been monitoring human space for over a century. We know exactly what they have. They are no threat. Quellen sat down slowly. He'd done what he could. If the council wouldn't listen, then perhaps they deserved what was coming. In his quarters, he began writing. A historical account. A warning for future generations. He titled it carefully, The Day We Died and Didn't Know It. He didn't know how right he was. Operation Nightfall began at exactly midnight Earth Standard Time. Across 40 council worlds at precisely the same moment the Ghost Legion struck. General Sualim watched from her command ship as the reports came in. Green lights across the board. Every team had reached their target. On the Valian military command station orbiting Vrel Prime, alarms started blaring. The station commander, a high-ranking officer with 20 years of service, ran to his console. What he saw made no sense. Explosions across the lower decks. Power failing. Communications down. And he hadn't seen any ships approach. A human in black armor appeared behind him. The commander spun, reaching for his weapon, but he was too slow. Lieutenant Juan of the Ghost Legion already had his rifle aimed. Don't move, Juan said calmly. Your defense grid is offline. Your weapon platforms are offline. Your orbital defense fleet is about to have a very bad day. Tell your people to surrender and they'll live. Fight us and they'll die. Choose quickly. The commander stared. How did you get on my station? We've been here for 3 years, Juan said. Living as maintenance workers. You never noticed us. That's the problem with thinking you're superior. You stopped paying attention. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Thornax fortresses discovered humans already inside their walls. Kareth energy collectors found their systems compromised by viruses that had been dormant for years. Council military installations went dark, their commanders desperately trying to understand how they'd been infiltrated so completely. On the bridge of the Reckoning, Captain Seojun-O received the signal. Ghost Legion reports all objectives achieved. Council defense networks are compromised. We have control. Then let's introduce ourselves, Seojun said. He opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. 15,000 ships hung in space, divided into battle groups. Each group had a target. All vessels proceed to designated coordinates. Execute Operation Vengeance. And someone remind the crews, we're better than them. Military targets only. The fleet moved. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Thousands of ships, all moving in perfect coordination like a school of fish or a flock of birds. But these birds carried railguns and plasma, cannons and missiles that could crack a planet. The first battle was at Thornax Prime. War leader Krathix stood on the command deck of the orbital defense station, confident and proud. His people were warriors, the greatest fighters in the galaxy. Let the weak humans come. They would learn what real strength meant. Then his sensors officer made a sound of confusion. Sir, contacts appearing on long-range scans. Multiple contacts. Many contacts, huh? Krathix demanded. The officer's voice shook. Sir, I count 3,000 vessels. No, wait, 4,000. Still appearing. They're jumping in from hyperspace in waves? That's impossible, Krathix snarled. The humans don't have 4,000 ships. But they did. And as Krathix watched his screen, more and more appeared. Destroyers, cruisers, dreadnoughts, and something else. Small craft. Tens of thousands of them. Drone fighters, each one controlled by quantum-linked AI systems, the Thornax defense fleet launched to meet them. 2,000 warships, the pride of the warrior race. They charged forward, confident in their numerical advantage in capital ships. Then the drones hit them. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. The drone fighters moved like they shared one mind because they did. They swarmed individual ships, overwhelming point defense systems. Thornax pilots found themselves fighting enemies that didn't fear death, didn't hesitate, didn't make mistakes. For every drone they destroyed, 10 more took its place. Captain Xiajun watched the battle displays. The Thornax were brave. He'd give them that. They fought hard. But bravery wasn't enough against overwhelming force and superior coordination. Within 2 hours, half the Thornax fleet was destroyed. The survivors tried to retreat to the orbital defenses. Target the defensive platforms, Xiajun ordered. Fire when ready. The Reckoning's main guns spoke. Beams of focused energy, powerful enough to boil oceans. The first platform exploded. Then the second. Then a dozen more. The Thornax defense network, built over centuries, torn apart in minutes. Krathix couldn't believe what he was seeing. His fleet was dying. His defenses were crumbling. And the human ships hadn't even come close yet. They were fighting from extreme range, using weapons the Thornax couldn't match. Sir, incoming transmission, his communications officer said. A human face appeared on the screen. Captain Xiajun O, commander of the Reckoning. He looked tired. Sad, almost? War leader Krathix. You killed 847 civilians. You laughed about it. Now watch your fleet die and understand what you've done. We are warriors. Krathix roared. We don't fear death. I know, Xiajun said quietly. That's why you'll keep fighting until you're extinct. Surrender now, and your people survive? Keep fighting, and we'll remove you from the galaxy. You have 10 minutes to decide. The transmission ended. Krathix looked around his command center. His officers were watching him, waiting for orders. He was a warrior. Warriors didn't surrender. But warriors also protected their people. And his people were dying. Send the surrender signal, he said finally. Each word felt like a knife. Stand down the fleet. At the same time, a different kind of battle was happening at Vrel Prime. The Vrelians had a massive fleet. 40,000 ships. They launched in force, confident their numbers would overwhelm the humans. They met Captain Junho Park's task force. Only 3,000 vessels. The Vrelians attacked in waves, trying to use their numbers. But then something strange happened. Vrelian ships started firing on each other. Entire battle groups turned on their own forces. Chaos spread through the fleet like wildfire. On the Vengeance Protocol, Lieutenant Haijin monitored the cyber warfare displays. Our viruses are working perfectly, sir. We've taken control of 30% of their fleet. Another 20% are fighting computer malfunctions. Junho watched the Vrelian fleet tear itself apart. Dr. Jiwan's cyber team really earned their pay. The Vrelians never knew we'd spent 20 years mapping their computer systems. Dr. Jiwan Beek herself was on one of the stealth ships that had infiltrated the battle space. Her team of programmers and AI specialists weren't soldiers in the traditional sense. They didn't fire guns or pilot ships. They broke into enemy systems and turned them against their owners. Their quantum encryption is actually quite elegant, she said to her team. It's just that we've had access to their root codes for 15 years. When you build someone's computer systems for them, you tend to leave back doors. The Vrelian High Queen watched from her palace on Vrel Prime as her fleet destroyed itself. She'd been so confident, so certain of victory. Now she was watching her military power evaporate. "Get me the human commander," she demanded. Junho's face appeared on her screen. "Your Majesty, are you ready to discuss surrender?" "You dare." She clicked furiously. "We have 30,000 ships still functional. We can crush you." "No, you can't," Junho said simply. "Because those ships don't belong to you anymore. They belong to us. We control them. We can make them fire on your planet right now if we choose. But we won't. Because unlike you, we don't murder civilians. Surrender your military forces. Acknowledge human sovereignty over the disputed territory. Do it now, or we start destroying your military infrastructure. Every base, every shipyard, every weapon platform. You have 5 minutes." The transmission ended. The High Queen looked at her advisors. They had nothing to say. Humanity had taken control of their fleet without firing more than a few shots. It was humiliating. It was devastating. It was over. The Karath faced a different kind of attack. As beings of pure energy, they'd always believed themselves safe from physical weapons. They'd built their entire civilization around that belief. They were wrong. General Sua led the Ghost Legion assault on a Karath collective personally. Her soldiers wore specialized armor and carried resonance bombs. The devices were designed specifically to disrupt energy-based life forms. Humanity had spent decades studying the Karath, learning their frequencies. Understanding their nature, the Karath leaders gathered in their collective chamber, a space where they could merge their consciousnesses. They were discussing the human attacks, trying to decide how to respond. Then the Ghost Legion soldiers appeared. They'd infiltrated using Karath access codes, purchased years ago from a corrupt collective member. "What is this?" one of the Karath pulsed. "You cannot harm us. We are beyond your primitive weapons." Sua set down a resonance bomb and activated it. The device began emitting waves of energy at specific frequencies. The Karath collective started to scream, if screaming could be done without a voice. Their energy matrices were disrupting, tearing apart at the quantum level. "We are xenobiologists," Sua said coldly. "We study species. We learn how they work. And then we learn how to kill them if necessary. You should have thought of that before you voted to ignore the murder of our people." The Karath leader flickered weakly. "Please stop, we will surrender." "That's what the Clearwater said," Sua replied. "You didn't listen, but we're better than you. So I'll listen. Order all Karath military forces to stand down, now?" The Karath complied. They had no choice. Within hours, every Karath military installation had surrendered. An entire species that had thought itself invulnerable learned that humanity had studied them well enough to find their weakness. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Council species that had ruled for thousands of years found themselves helpless against an enemy they'd underestimated. Within 2 weeks of Operation Nightfall's start, 19 species had surrendered. The Council's military strength was shattered. Their communication networks were compromised. Their leaders were in hiding. On the Nexus station, the Council held an emergency session. The chamber that had once held 43 proud species now felt empty. Many representatives had fled. Others sat in shocked silence. Quellen, the old Scythian scholar, stood to speak. "I warned you. I told you we knew nothing about them. But you wouldn't listen. Now look at us. We've lost more in 2 weeks than in 1,000 years of wars." The Vrelian High Queen, attending via hologram from her besieged world, clicked weakly. "How did we not see this? 100 years of observation and we missed an entire military-industrial complex? Because they showed us what they wanted us to see, Quellen said. They joined the council peaceful and stayed peaceful for over a century. They hoped they'd never need to fight. We made sure they did. Fleet Admiral Deho appeared on every screen in the chamber, uninvited and unchallenged. The council's security systems had been compromised days ago. Members of the council, he said formally. This is Fleet Admiral Deho Nam of the United Earth Forces. You have 48 hours to surrender all military forces unconditionally. If you refuse, we will continue operations. We will destroy every military installation you possess. We will occupy every strategic system. And we will do it without harming a single civilian because we are not monsters like you. The Thornax representative, not Krathix but a diplomat, spoke up. And if we surrender, what then? Will you exterminate us? Deho's expression softened slightly. No, we don't commit genocide. But you will never threaten us again. The terms will be harsh. You've earned that. You spilled human blood and laughed. Now you'll spend the next century paying for that mistake. The transmission ended. The council members looked at each other. They'd ruled the galaxy for so long. Now they were begging for mercy from the species they'd thought was weakest. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. We should surrender, Quellen said quietly. We've already lost. Continuing will only mean more death. The vote was called. It was almost unanimous. Only the Thornax voted to keep fighting. Their warrior culture couldn't accept defeat. But it didn't matter. The Thornax couldn't fight alone. In his personal quarters, war leader Krathix sat in darkness, contemplating honor and duty and the price of pride. He'd killed 847 humans. Now he'd doomed his entire species to subjugation. History would remember him as the warrior who destroyed the Thornax through his own arrogance. The thought burned worse than any human weapon. The Council's surrender came on the 16th day of the war. All except the Thornax. They refused, their warrior culture unable to accept defeat. War leader Krathix sent a message to his people across all Thornax worlds. We are warriors. His voice echoed through every Thornax colony and ship. We do not kneel to pray. We do not surrender to those we hunted. Let the weak species bow to the humans. We will fight until our last breath. Death before dishonor. Fleet Admiral Deho read the message in his office on Earth. He'd hoped it wouldn't come to this. The Thornax were stubborn and proud, but they weren't evil. Just arrogant. Still, they'd made their choice. He opened a secure channel to General Sua. The Thornax want to keep fighting, he said. Give them one more chance. Make it clear what will happen if they refuse. General Sua was on a Ghost Legion ship near Thornax space. She broadcast on all Thornax military frequencies. This is General Sualim of Earth Forces. Your leaders have chosen continued war. But you don't have to follow them to extinction. Any Thornax who surrenders will be treated with respect. Your families will be safe. Your culture will survive. But if you keep fighting, we will win. And when we do, your entire species will spend the next century under human occupation. Choose wisely. Some Thornax listened. 3 colonies surrendered immediately, led by officers who put their people's survival above their pride. But most of the Thornax military remained loyal to Krathix. They prepared for a final stand, gathering their remaining 2,000 warships around their homeworld. Captain Seojin's fleet arrived at Thornax Prime 3 days later. He looked at the defensive formation on his displays. The Thornax had positioned their ships well. They were ready to fight. He opened a channel to all Thornax vessels. I don't want to kill you, Seojin said simply. You're brave. You're honorable in your own way. But you're wrong. You murdered civilians. You laughed about it. And now you think dying in battle will somehow erase that. It won't. Surrender and live. Your families need you more than your pride does. The response came from Krathix himself. We are Thornax. We are warriors. Come and face us, human. We will show you what true strength means. Seojun closed his eyes for a moment. Then he gave the order. All ships, engage. Target military vessels only. Make it quick. The battle lasted 4 hours. The Thornax fought with incredible bravery. They charged the human lines again and again. Their pilots performed maneuvers that would have been impossible for most species. But bravery couldn't overcome mathematics. The humans had better weapons, better coordination, better everything. For every human ship damaged, 10 Thornax ships were destroyed. Lieutenant Borum, serving on the Reckoning as a tactical officer, watched the casualty counts climb. "Sir, they're not retreating. They're just flying straight at us." "I know," Seojun said quietly. "They think dying in battle is honor. They don't understand that living to protect your people is the real honor." The Thornax flagship, massive and ancient, made a final run at the Reckoning. Its weapons blazed, scoring hits on the human dreadnought's shields. But the Reckoning's return fire was devastating. The Thornax flagship broke apart, its hull torn open by focused energy beams. War leader Krathik stood on his bridge as it died around him. He'd lost. The humans had beaten his entire species. His last thought was not of victory or honor. It was regret. Regret that his pride had cost so many lives. Then the bridge exploded and he knew nothing more. With their leader dead, the remaining Thornax ships finally broke. They scattered, some trying to run, others surrendering. The battle was over. The war was over. Humanity had won, but victory felt hollow. Captain Junho stood on the bridge of the Vengeance Protocol, reading casualty reports. 300 human soldiers dead. Over 50,000 Thornax. Millions more across the Council species. And for what? Because one species had murdered civilians and the Council had done nothing. Was it worth it? Lieutenant Hejin asked quietly. Ju-un-ho thought of Min-ho-yoon, a young student who just wanted to study plants. "I don't know," he admitted. "But it was necessary. They killed our people. We had to respond. Otherwise, every species in the galaxy would think human blood is cheap." Dr. Taiyang Choi watched the reports from his lab on Earth. He'd spent years studying alien species to understand them. Now his work had been used to kill them. The Kareth resonance bombs had been based on his research. The Vrelian computer viruses had used his xenobiology data. He felt sick. Dr. Jiwon found him staring at his screens. "You're wondering if you're a monster," she said, "aren't I?" Tiang asked. "I studied them to learn about them. Now they're dead because of what I learned." "You're not a monster," Jiwon said firmly. "Monsters enjoy killing. You're suffering because of it. That's the difference. We did what was necessary, not what we wanted." "Tell that to the dead," Tai Yang said bitterly on the Nexus station. The council gathered for what would be their final session. Ambassador Myong attended, the only human present. She walked through the chamber, and every alien representative avoided her eyes. They'd watched the war. They'd seen what humanity was capable of. They were afraid. The Vrelian High Queen spoke first, her mandibles clicking nervously. "Ambassador Han, we acknowledge our error. We allowed the massacre to go unpunished. We treated human lives as worthless. We were wrong. Tell us what you want. We will comply." Myong looked around the chamber. These species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They'd thought themselves superior, untouchable. Now they were begging for mercy from the species. They dismissed as weak merchants. "What I want," Myong said softly, "is for 847 people to be alive. I want my nephew to come home. I want those children on the Clearwater to grow up. But I can't have that. You took it from me. From us. So instead, I'll take something from you." She pulled up a holographic document. "The Treaty of Earth, written in 43 languages. These are our terms. The Galactic Council is dissolved, effective immediately. A new organization will replace it, with humanity holding veto power on all military matters. Every Council species will reduce their military to 25% of current strength. Human observers will be stationed on every homeworld. War crime trials will be held for those responsible for civilian deaths, and reparations will be paid to the families of the Clearwater victims. The chamber erupted in protests. The Kareth representative pulsed angrily. This is occupation. You're making us your servants. No, Myong said coldly. We're making sure you never murder our people again. You had 127 years to prove you could be trusted with power. You failed. Now we'll hold that power, and you'll learn to earn it back. Sign the treaty, or we continue the war. Your choice. One by one, they signed. They had no choice. Humanity had won not just militarily, but completely. The old galactic order was dead. Captain Jinho took a leave of absence after the war. He returned to Earth and visited the Clearwater Memorial. 847 names carved in black stone. He found Minho Yun's name and stood there for a long time. We won, he said to the name. We beat them all. Doesn't feel like a victory, though. Too many dead? On all sides. He felt someone approach. Ambassador Myong, dressed in civilian clothes, carrying flowers. She placed them at the memorial and stood beside him. Did we go too far? Jinho asked her. We destroyed their military, occupied their worlds, forced them to surrender everything. We went exactly as far as necessary, Myong said. Not one step further. We could have exterminated species. We could have taken their worlds. We could have become the monsters they feared. But we didn't. We showed them that humanity can be peaceful or we can be terrifying. And the choice is theirs. Minho wouldn't have wanted this, Jinho said. Minho was 23 years old and believed in peace, Myong replied. But Minho is dead because the council thought we were weak. Now the council is gone. Now there's peace again. Minho didn't want this war, but his death made it necessary. That's the tragedy. They stood together in silence, two humans among millions mourning their dead. The war was over. The victory was complete, but the cost would haunt them forever. General Sua deactivated the Ghost Legion. Her soldiers returned home, most of them struggling with what they'd done. They'd spent years preparing to kill aliens. Now they had to live with having done it. Support groups formed. Therapy became mandatory for all combat veterans. One of her soldiers, a young woman named Private Nari, came to her office. General, I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see their faces. The Kareth I killed. They were just defending their worlds. I know, Sua said. I see them too. Every one of them. But here's what you need to remember. We didn't start this war. We didn't want this war. But when they forced us to fight, we fought to end it as quickly as possible. We saved lives by being efficient. That doesn't make it hurt less, but it makes it bearable. Does it ever stop hurting? Nari asked. No, Sua said honestly. That's how you know you're still human. Monsters don't feel guilt. We do. That's why we're better than them. Dr. Jiwan's enhancement programs were shut down after the war. The genetic and cybernetic modifications that had created super soldiers were no longer needed. She spent her time helping veterans readjust to civilian life, both physically and mentally. We created weapons, she told her staff. Now we help them become people again. That's our responsibility. On Council worlds, occupation forces arrived. Human soldiers in blue armor, carrying weapons but under strict orders not to use them unless absolutely necessary. They weren't there to punish. They were there to ensure peace. Most aliens expected cruelty. Instead, they found discipline and respect on Vrel Prime. A human soldier named Private Kyung was stationed at a checkpoint. A Vrelian civilian approached, carrying supplies. The Vrelian's mandibles clicked nervously. Am I allowed to pass? The alien asked. Of course, Kyung said. You're not a prisoner. You're just monitored. Go ahead, the Vrelian hesitated. Why are you being kind? We tried to kill your people. Your military tried to kill us, Kyung corrected. You're just a civilian trying to live your life. We don't punish innocents. That's what made us better than your old leaders. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to heal. War crime trials were held. Those responsible for civilian deaths were convicted and imprisoned. But humanity made it clear: justice, not revenge. The trials were fair. The evidence was clear. And the sentences were measured. War leader Krathix was dead, but his subordinates who'd followed his order to fire on the Clearwater were tried. They were found guilty of murder. Their sentence was life imprisonment. Some humans wanted execution. Fleet Admiral Deho refused. "We don't kill prisoners," he said. "That's what separates us from them. They'll spend their lives in prison, knowing they destroyed their own species through their pride. That's punishment enough." Ambassador Myong retired from public service. She moved to a small house near the Clearwater Memorial and spent her days tending the gardens. Aliens visited sometimes, bringing their own memorials. A Vrelian mother brought flowers for the human children who died. A young Kareth came to apologize for its species' complicity. Myong accepted them all. "The war is over," she told them. "Now we learn to live together. Again. But this time, you'll remember what happens when you forget that human lives matter." The galaxy would never be the same. The old council was gone. A new order had risen, built on human strength and enforced by human will. But it was also built on human principles: justice, proportionality, and the protection of civilians. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson. Humanity hoped they'd never need to teach it again. 5 years passed since the war ended. The galaxy was different now, changed in ways both obvious and subtle. On Earth, in the same Pacific facility where Fleet Admiral Deho had activated Protocol Apex, he prepared for his retirement. He was 75 now, gray and tired. The weight of 50,000 alien deaths pressed on his shoulders every day. His replacement, Admiral Yunji Park, stood beside him as they watched the orbital displays. The human fleet was smaller now, reduced from its wartime peak. But it was still the most powerful military force in the galaxy. More importantly, everyone knew it. "Do you think they'll try again?" Yunji asked. "In 20 years? 50? Will they forget and attack us again?" Deho shook his head. "They won't forget. We made sure of that. Every alien child learns about the war in their schools now. They call it different things. The humans' war, the council's fall, the great humbling. But they all teach the same lesson: don't awaken humanity." "Is that enough?" Yunji pressed. "Fear?" "No," Deho admitted. "Fear alone never keeps peace. That's why we're rebuilding with them, not just occupying them. In another generation, they won't remember us as conquerors. They'll remember us as the species that could have destroyed them but chose to help them instead." On the Nexus Station, now renamed Unity Station, a very different kind of council met. Representatives from all species gathered, but the chamber had changed. The old hierarchy was gone. Now everyone sat at the same level. And at the center, the human veto seat remained. A reminder of who held ultimate authority, Captain Junho, now Admiral Junho Park, presided over the session. He'd been reluctant to take the position, but Fleet Admiral Deho had insisted. "You understand what the war cost," Deho had told him. "That makes you the right person to prevent another one." Today's session was about trade agreements. Boring, technical, safe. Exactly what Junho preferred. The Vrelian representative, a younger queen who'd replaced the disgraced High Queen, was speaking about mineral rights after the session. A Thornax representative approached Junho. This Thornax was young, hatched after the war. He wore a scholar's robes, not a warrior's armor. "Admiral Park," the Thornax said carefully, "I wanted to thank you." Junho raised an eyebrow. "Thank me? My people defeated yours?" "We occupy your worlds." "You saved us," the young Thornax said. "War leader Krathix would have led us to extinction." His pride was infinite. "Your restraint was greater. You could have wiped us out. Instead, you stopped when we surrendered. My generation exists because you showed mercy." Junho didn't know what to say. He'd never thought of it that way. "We're not monsters," he finally said. "We fight when we must. We stop when we can." On Thornax Prime, massive reconstruction was underway. The orbital defenses destroyed in the war were being rebuilt, but differently, smaller, purely defensive. Human engineers worked alongside Thornax workers, teaching new technologies. Private Borum, the young officer who'd served on the Reckoning during the war, was now a civilian engineer leading a construction team. A Thornax worker approached him with a question about shield generators. Borum explained the human design, patient and clear. The Thornax listened carefully, then said, "You fight better than us. You build better than us. Is there anything humans are not superior at?" Borum laughed. "We're terrible at living in the moment. You Thornax know how to appreciate honor and tradition. We're always planning, always preparing for the worst. Maybe you could teach us to relax." The Thornax made a sound that might have been laughter. Strange times. 5 years ago, we would have been trying to kill each other. Now we build together. That's progress, Borum said. Slow, but real. Dr. Taiyang Choi had returned to xenobiology, but his focus had changed. Instead of studying how to defeat alien species, he studied how to help them recover. He worked with Vrelian botanists to restore ecosystems damaged by the war. He helped Kareth engineers repair their energy networks. He traveled constantly, trying to heal the wounds his research had helped create on Vrel Prime. He met with a Vrelian scientist named Klixer. They were studying a fungal disease affecting Vrelian food crops. This disease appeared after the war, Klixer explained. Some think it was human biological warfare. It wasn't, Taiyang said firmly. We didn't use biological weapons. We could have, but we chose not to. This is natural, probably a mutation caused by disrupted ecosystems. We can fix it. They worked together for weeks, developing a treatment. When it succeeded, Klixer's mandibles clicked in what Taiyang had learned to recognize as gratitude. You are strange, human, Klixer said. You study us to kill us, then study us to save us. Which is the real you? Both, Taiyang said honestly. We're capable of terrible things when we're threatened. But we're also capable of great kindness when we're safe. The choice was yours. You chose war. Now we're choosing peace. Together. General Sualim had retired from military service. She ran a veterans center now, helping soldiers from all species deal with their trauma. Human, Vrelian, Kareth, even Thornax. War left scars on everyone, regardless of species. A human veteran, former Private Nari, now worked as a counselor at the center. She led group therapy sessions for mixed species groups. Today's session included 2 humans, a Vrelian and a Kareth. We all did things we regret, Nari said to the group. Human-alien doesn't matter. War makes us do terrible things. But we survived. Now we have to learn to live with what we did. The Vrelian soldier clicked sadly. I killed humans. I followed orders, but I killed them. How can I live with that? By being better now, one of the human veterans said. By helping build peace. The dead can't forgive us, but the living can see us try to make amends. These sessions happened across the galaxy. Former enemies talking, sharing pain, finding common ground. It was slow. It was difficult. But it was happening. Dr. Jiwon Beek focused her work on removing the enhancements from soldiers who wanted them removed. Some veterans chose to keep their genetic modifications and cybernetics. Others wanted to return to baseline human. She respected both choices. A former Ghost Legion soldier sat in her lab, preparing for enhancement removal surgery. Doc, will I still be me? After you take this stuff out? You'll be more you, Jiwon said. The enhancements made you a better soldier. Removing them will let you be a better person. Or not. That's up to you, not your genetics. The surgery was successful. The soldier woke up weaker physically, but somehow feeling lighter. Thank you, he said. I don't want to be a weapon anymore. You never were, Jiwon told him. You were a person who became a weapon when necessary. Now you can just be a person again. On Earth, the Clearwater Memorial had grown. The 847 names were still there, carved in black stone. But now additional memorials surrounded it. One for human soldiers who died in the war. Another for alien civilians caught in the fighting. A third for alien soldiers who'd surrendered and helped rebuild. Ambassador Myong, now in her 70s, still tended the gardens. She was there every day, rain or shine. Visitors from across the galaxy came to pay respects. She welcomed them all. A young Thornax student visited one day, part of an exchange program. He looked at Min Ho-yoon's name with confusion. Ambassador Han, the student asked. This human died before the war. Why is he so important? Myong knelt beside the young Thornax. Min-ho was my nephew. He was 23. He studied plants. He never hurt anyone. Your people killed him because they thought human lives were cheap. The war happened because we proved they were wrong. Every life here was precious. We fought to make sure everyone understands that. The student's eyes widened. So the war was because of him? The war was because 847 people like him were murdered, Myong corrected gently. Min-ho was just one of them. But yes, his death was part of why we fought. Does that make sense? The young Thornax nodded slowly. My teacher says war leader Krathix was a fool. He could have apologized and prevented everything, but his pride was too great. Your teacher is wise, Myong said. Pride is dangerous. It makes you think you're invincible. And when you think you're invincible, you stop being careful. That's when you make terrible mistakes. Captain Seo-jun-oh had been promoted to Fleet Admiral after Daeho's retirement. He commanded the human fleet from Unity Station. His job was to be ready for war while working to prevent it. It was a delicate balance. His crew on the Reckoning was mixed now. Humans, Relians, Kareth, even a few Thornax. They worked together surprisingly well. The aliens brought different perspectives. The humans brought experience and discipline. Together, they were stronger than any single species could be, a Kareth officer named. Zell worked as the Reckoning's energy systems specialist. Zell had fought against humanity during the war. Now Zell served under human command. Seo-jun asked Zell about it once. Does it bother you? Taking orders from the species that defeated yours? Zell pulsed thoughtfully. At first, yes. It felt like submission, but now? I see it differently. You didn't conquer us to enslave us. You conquered us to teach us. My people were arrogant. We thought we were superior because we're energy-based. You proved that intelligence and determination matter more than form. I'm learning that lesson. Good, Seo-jun said. Because I need you to teach our human engineers your energy manipulation techniques. We're strong, but we can always learn from others. Zell pulsed with surprise. You want to learn from me? Of course, Seo-jun said. We won the war, but that doesn't mean we know everything. Your people have been working with energy for millions of years. We've been spacefaring for 500. We're still children compared to most council species. Except in one thing. War, Zell said quietly. War, Seo-jun agreed. We're very, very good at war. That's not something to be proud of. It's something to be careful with. Like a sharp knife. Useful when needed, dangerous when mishandled. The new galactic order was working slowly. Trade resumed. Cultural exchanges happened. Mixed crews explored new systems. The wounds from the war were healing. But nobody forgot. That was important. Forgetting would mean risking repetition. On the 10th anniversary of the Clearwater Massacre, a ceremony was held at Unity Station. Representatives from every species attended. Admiral Junho gave a speech. 10 years ago, 847 humans died. The Galactic Council did nothing. Humanity responded with overwhelming force. We shattered the old order and built something new. Today we honor not just the humans who died, but all who died in the war that followed. 50,000 Thornax, 20,000 Vrelians, 15,000 Kareth, thousands more from other species, and 300 humans who fell in combat. He paused, letting the numbers sink in. Was it worth it? I don't know. I'll never know. But I know this. Today we live in peace. Today, aliens and humans work together. Today, everyone understands that life is precious, regardless of species. If the dead could speak, I hope they'd say that was worth it. The chamber was silent. Then, one by one, representatives from every species stood. Not in applause, in respect. For the dead. For the lessons learned. For the peace that had cost so much. After the ceremony, Junho found himself alone on an observation deck. Looking at the stars. So many worlds. So many species. All living in a peace enforced by human might but sustained by mutual understanding. Still wondering if we did the right thing? Admiral Seojun joined him at the window. Every day, Junho admitted, we killed 50,000 sentients. Changed the galaxy forever. Made ourselves the ultimate authority. That's a lot of power. What if we misuse it? Then someone will stop us, Seojun said. That's the secret. We're not invincible. We're just prepared. If we become tyrants, the galaxy will unite against us. And maybe they'll win. Maybe they won't. But they'll try? That possibility keeps us honest. You think they could beat us? Junho asked skeptically. In 50 years? 100? Who knows? Seojun shrugged. We showed them what military excellence looks like. They're learning, adapting. Maybe someday they'll be as good as us. And when that day comes, we'll know the peace is real. Because they'll choose it, not because we forced it. Lieutenant Hijin, now a captain herself, had taken command of the Vengeance Protocol. She commanded patrols along the borders, watching for pirates and raiders. Most of her targets these days were criminals, not enemy militaries. That was progress. On her bridge, she had a mixed crew. They worked smoothly, efficiently. Her weapons officer was Vrelian. Her navigator was Kareth. Her chief engineer was Thornax. And they all followed her orders without question. Captain, her Thornax engineer reported. We're picking up a distress signal. Civilian transport under attack by pirates. All hands to battle stations, Hijin ordered. Maximum speed to intercept. Let's remind these pirates why attacking civilians is a bad idea. The Vengeance Protocol arrived within minutes. The pirates, seeing a human warship, immediately surrendered. They knew better than to fight. The civilians were saved. Justice was maintained. It was routine now. That was the best sign of all. In his modest home near the memorial, Dr. Taiyang wrote his final paper. It was titled Xenobiology as Bridge, Not Weapon. He described his journey from studying aliens to defeat them, to studying aliens to help them. He talked about the moral complexity of using knowledge for destruction. Then reconstruction. The paper's conclusion was simple. We are all sentients. We all feel pain. We all love our children. We all want to survive. Species differences are real, but they're smaller than what we share. The war taught us that humans can be terrible when threatened. The peace teaches us that humans can be wonderful when safe. Both are true. Both matter. Ambassador Myong died peacefully in her sleep at age 78. She was buried near the Clearwater Memorial, her gravestone simple. Myong Han, diplomat, aunt, guardian of peace. Thousands attended her funeral. Humans and aliens alike. They came to honor the woman who'd sent 3 words that changed the galaxy. Protocol Apex, activate. At her funeral, Admiral Junho spoke. Ambassador Han never wanted war. She spent 15 years building bridges between species. But when the council murdered her nephew and laughed about it, she made the hardest choice of her life. She chose justice over peace. She chose consequences over acceptance. She was right to do it. History will remember her as the woman who saved humanity by showing the galaxy what we truly are. Not merchants, not diplomats, not weaklings, but a species that values peace but will absolutely go to war to protect our own. After the funeral, a young human boy approached the memorial. He was Minho's younger cousin, born after the war. He placed flowers at Minho's name. I never met you, cousin, the boy said. But everyone says you were kind. I try to be kind too, but I also train in combat like all humans do now. Because kindness works best when backed by strength. I hope you'd understand. In the former Vrelian High Queen's Palace, now a museum, children from multiple species toured together. Human children and Vrelian children and Kareth children all learning history together. Their guide, an elderly Vrelian, told them about the old council. "We thought we ruled the galaxy," the guide said. "We were wrong. We ruled because humanity allowed it. When we betrayed that trust, we learned the truth. Humans are apex predators who chose to be peaceful. But they never forgot how to hunt. Remember this, children. Kindness is not weakness. Patience is not cowardice. And the scariest warriors are the ones who don't want to fight." A human child raised her hand. "Were humans the bad guys?" "No," the guide said firmly. "Humans were the consequences. We were the bad guys. We murdered innocents. They made us pay for it. But they didn't destroy us. They could have. They chose not to. That's why we respect them. Not because they're strong. Because they're just..." 50 years after the war, Admiral Sijin finally retired. He was old now, his hair white, his body failing, but his mind was sharp. At his retirement ceremony, he gave one final speech. "I commanded ships that killed thousands," he said. "I gave orders that destroyed fleets. I carried out Operation Vengeance and watched alien worlds burn. Do I regret it? No, it was necessary. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat, if forced. But am I proud of it? No, war is never something to be proud of. It's something to be good at, so you can end it quickly when forced to fight." He looked at the young officers in attendance. "You're inheriting a galaxy at peace. Keep it that way. Be strong so others don't test you. Be fair so others don't resent you. Be merciful so others don't fear you. And remember, we didn't conquer the galaxy. We saved it from itself. Don't let anyone forget that." The Scythian scholar Quellen, now impossibly old even by his species' standards, finally published his complete history. The day we died and didn't know it. A complete history of the Council's fall. It became required reading in schools. Across the galaxy dot the book's final paragraph. Read. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their technology or their military might. It was their restraint. They could have exterminated us. They chose to teach us instead. They could have enslaved us. They chose to rehabilitate us instead. They proved that the most dangerous species in the galaxy was also the most moral. And in doing so, they gave us all hope that sentience, any sentience, can choose to be better. The Council fell because we were arrogant. The galaxy survived because humanity was wise. May we never forget either lesson. On Earth, in a small garden near the Clearwater Memorial, flowers bloomed eternal. 847 names. 50,000 more. All remembered. All honored. The price of arrogance. The cost of justice. The foundation of peace. And in the darkness of space, human ships patrolled, watching, waiting, ready to defend if needed. Hoping never to be needed again. The sleeping giant was awake now, and the galaxy was better for it. As long as everyone remembered the price of waking it,